Welcome to the I Hate Critics movie review podcast. I'm professional film critic Sean Patrick. Hi, Jeff.
Oh, hi. I thought you canceled me too.
Wait, did you get canceled? What happened?
Oh, I got canceled by a bunch of people who have a parasocial relationship with somebody on the internet.
Oh no,
Who
that's a
I called
shame.
out, who I called out about AI. I literally, it's like it drove traffic to my website on one of these nights, like by 500%. So,
What AI did?
yeah, right. No, these Stepford wives.
Mm.
Unless it was our listeners, finally deciding to like check out my stuff. I am running a little in order. I've got some stuff to clear out because I want to make some new stuff.
Mhm.
So if anybody who orders a print from me or 3 stickers in one order is I'll throw in a random sticker. I've got a box and I'm putting them all in there and I'm just going to draw from it. So anytime you order 3 stickers from me, or if you see me in person at Dark History and Horror Con on the 8th and 9th in Champaign, Illinois, then I'll let you reach in and grab a proportionate number of free stickers. So,
Very cool. Very cool.
so yeah.
All right. Well, I'm still working on 31 Days of Horror, so you can find that at medium.com/realscope as well as on our Facebook page. Let's see, what did I do today? I can't even. it's been several hours since I posted it, and now I'm blanking on which movie I posted. Oh, Men. Alex Garland's Men. Excellent fucking movie.
Yeah,
I also I watched Megan is Missing, and that was terrible. Just a really awful experience, but so that's up there as well. And my Nightmare 2 is up there as well. I did write about that, and I like Nightmare 2 so much. so much based off of our conversation about it.
I'm actually I'm finally working on my the poster that I started for Halloween-a-Palooza 2 years ago when Mark canceled because I thought he was sick, but he'd been booked twice by his agent. I started it, and that's where my Freddy sticker came from. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to work on that. I'm going to work on it now. So, because of our conversation about it. So
Nice.
soon it'll be done, and I'll post it.
I also have, I'm also doing Emma Stone Week at Real Scub, so I've got reviews of The Favorite and Easy A up currently, and I got more of her stuff going up this week leading up to the release of Begonia on Friday, which I believe is maybe the biggest title, although I just found out, Jeff, apparently Frankenstein, Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, is going to be playing in town on Friday.
Oh, it is?
Apparently. Not at the big theater, at the little one.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yes,
well,
indeed.
That's
our friends
surprise.
who created the A Quiet Place are bringing that movie to their hometown apparently this Friday night.
Just for Friday, or will it be showing throughout the weekend?
I'm not sure. I think it's showing through the weekend, but I did see it definitely for sure on Friday.
Okay,
so that's pretty cool. It's good to have. It's good to have guys with a little bit of Hollywood clout around. Because I mean, that movie coming out and it's not going to be playing at the major theater. That's got to be some kind of special arrangement of some kind.
Yeah, well, I know that it's a Netflix movie. Netflix bought it, and they're releasing it to some theaters, but not major release. So, I think that's in order to say, hey, it was in the movie theater, so it's eligible for Oscars. But
I saw that. I was going to be there, so I watched both Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein in preparation, and so I plan to have those going up for the next for the final 2 days of 31 Days of Horror.
Nice. And as we're taping, is Elsa Lanchester's birthday.
Oh, nice.
So saw some absolutely gorgeous Bride of Frankenstein art. So I guess I never ever have to do anything with that movie again because I could never reach that height. So I'll just sell out of my my Bride of Frankenstein prints that I had for the massacre, and then we'll be done, and we'll never ever draw it again. Oh,
I've always been,
yeah.
I wondered about that. Is like you see another person's work and go, well, now I can never do that again.
Well, so
That's too incredible. I gotta.
my friend Merle and we kind of share a brain about stuff. Um, and so I have a Suspiria sticker coming in. It was supposed to be here today. I don't know where it's at. Of course, the last time it was scanned was 3 days ago in Anaheim, California, with supposed to be here today by 9. So we'll see after we're done recording if it's here. It's not going to be because I promised it to somebody for tomorrow. Um, but I saw this and I was like, oh, I really want to do this. But I thought she did it. So I texted her and I was like, did you do this image before? And she goes, no, I did something similar, but not that. I'm like, okay, cool. I can do it. She goes, you could do it anyway. She goes, we've actually done a couple things before we were friends and before we even followed each other on social media. We have actually done some very similar designs from Friday the 13th. I think one of them was Chris from part 3. Um, that was one of the ones that we did that was similar. So yeah, that happens occasionally. Sometimes I'll see something that is so beautiful that I think, wow, I could never top that. So why even try? And sometimes I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to put my own spin on it. Um, my Fright Night piece, I was told by one of the stars that it was their the favorite fan poster they've seen so far. So,
That's very cool.
I mean, that made me happy.
Th- This does happen to film critics, or at least it happened to me. I'm not friends with Nathan Rabin, but I've been a fan of his for a long, long time, going back to the AV Club. And like in my early 30s, as I was starting to kind of establish myself as a critic, I would read his stuff and go, "Fuck, he's thinking the same thing I'm thinking
Mhm.
every single time, and writing it far better." Like I was his Salieri. Like I'd read his stuff. He's so amazing, and then like, what the fuck am I going to write about now? It took me a little bit. It took me a couple of years to get over that and get my confidence and realize that I can write just as well as anybody else.
Yeah, and there are cases where you have the same thought as somebody else.
Uh-huh.
Um, it, but because of the internet, I think, and social media especially, I think we're seeing a lot more people who think the same thing, say it the same way, and then get accused of stealing it. And I'm like, oh, like today, I said, some guy posted something about how bad gay people are, and Steve Hofstetter, who's a comedian, he said something about him being a closet case. I said, and this is something we've been saying literally since I came out 30 years ago. He's so far in the closet, he's going to gay bars in Narnia. Well, I've heard that. I just thought it was something my friends and I said. I don't remember where I heard it. Some guy was like, that is 100% stolen. And I was like, from who, girl? Because we've been saying it since I've been going out. So I don't know. But you have like, you just have that same thought process, I guess, as some people. So
Absolutely. Funny story about because one of my greatest fears is like somebody's going to, I don't know, I don't want to be accused of ripping somebody off. And
mhm.
it's weird. It's happened, but the one time it happened that it actually got to me was when I was writing for this website called bickit.com, bikkit.com. And somebody commented, "You stole this from Roger Ebert." And I'm like, "Thank you." You're mistaking my words for his? That's amazing.
Yeah. I've had my one of my designs, one of my most popular designs, completely ripped off by a major horror t-shirt company, and they were like, "Oh no, we checked with the artist and that was completely original." I said, "Mine's been out. That design has been out for 5 years, and there was one that was very similar to it that I updated, that I did like in 2019 was one of the first things I did on my iPad. And even somebody who I know who works for this company said, yeah, that there's no way that it's like, it's so obviously your design. So,
Hmm.
but I still sell a ton of it, and I've had to disabuse people of the notion that I stole it from them. So when I can point out, the 5 years ago when I put it on Instagram and they released theirs last year, I think, you know,
You got that one.
I've had to prove that a couple times to a couple people. So
Yeah. Because the internet is a cesspool and people just like being angry all the time.
social media is the cesspool. I think the internet is a useful tool, but social media is really, it's just, I really think that is one of the major problems. Everybody says money is the root of all evil, or the love of money is the root of all evil. Evil. It was until social media came along. So,
Nah, it's still money.
well, yeah, because money
The
deals with,
very rich allowed them to having money allowed them to create social media to continue to keep themselves rich.
and it gave us the enshittification of the internet too. So,
Ugh. Half the internet is dead. Apparently, that's a wild thought.
and by
Half the
me,
internet is just a lot of dead websites that go nowhere anymore. There's like somebody was writing about it. I think the website for the Jim Carrey movie, The Majestic, still exists somewhere, and it's like no one's updated it in 20 years and like 23 years, however long it's been since that movie came out, and it's just wild that like that's just languishing somewhere where people could still go if they were like they wandered there somehow. It's wild. And there's like, there's like a million dead Facebook pages from people who had Facebook pages and died. That's a weird thought.
yeah, yeah, and they didn't have anybody to turn them into remembering.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Let's talk movies, shall we?
oh, that's what we're here for. Let's do it.
That is often what we do. And we're going to talk about first a movie I saw called Regretting You, based on a novel by Colleen Hoover and starring Allison Williams, Dave Franco, Scott Eastwood, Willa Fitzgerald. It tells the story of of a how do you say this without? I guess it's not a spoiler. I mean, if you've seen the trailer, the sister and husband were cheating on Allison Williams and on Dave Franco, and then the sister, Scott Eastwood and Willa Fitzgerald, they get into a car accident and they die. They're boom, gone. They're dead. They leave behind, of course, the wife and a daughter. The wife, of course, is going to find out soon after that her husband was cheating on her, and that the child that she thought was her sister's child with Dave Franco is actually her husband's child with with her sister. So that's fun. Uh, only this is like Amanda the Jedi is a great YouTube critic. Described this as the kind of thing people posted on Tumblr or or Reddit. It's like a story to like somebody made up. Like, oh yeah, then they all fell in love.
Something Charlotte Dobre would read on her channel.
It's trashy and syrupy and silly. It looks professional. Josh Boone is not a bad director, so it doesn't, there's nothing technically wrong with it. Mason Thames is in this as well, and he's quite a good young actor. Um, but it's really needlessly long. It goes on over 2 hours, and it really shouldn't. Um, and like the premise is just so it's kind of icky that like everything just sort of falls into place after this horrific things happens. And I'm sorry, that's just not how life works. Um, like it's too clean, it's too simple, it's too melodramatic. Um, it reads like fan fiction, which of course Colleen Hoover got her start in fan fiction, so that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I did not see this. When you said it was too long when we spoke earlier, that was one of the reasons, because every time I could go to the movies, everything overlapped because they didn't show some of them until later, and then The one was just a little too long to get into the other one, and I didn't want to miss anything. But yeah, that so I did not. I figured I saw the trailer. I know what the movie was all about, and it's Colleen Hoover, so it's probably kind of crappy.
Have you read
Um,
Colleen Hoover? I've never read her.
I started to. No, I read one. My sister's like, "Oh, that's my favorite book by her," and I read it, and I was like, "Are you fucking with me? You liked that book?" She, "Oh, that was cute," but she and I have wildly different tastes in books. She likes like the rom com kind of chick lit stuff, and I like the thriller kind of chick lit stuff.
Hmm.
Um, anything that has a cover that looks exactly like every other book I read, I'm probably going to be into it. Um, you know how like when you walk into Target or Walmart or Barnes and Noble and they've got like the bestseller section and all the colors and all the fonts and everything looks exactly the same, so you can't tell the books apart. That's what I'm talking about. I know we've got listeners who are going, "Oh my God, you're right," and some of them are like, "I don't know, I don't read." Just kidding. But yeah, I've read one of her books, and if it was as syrupy as this looked, and as like cloying as It Ends With Us seemed,
Hmm.
then I'm kind of glad I couldn't make it work.
So I just want to mention one thing more about this movie. It's just a little thing, like a I don't know if it's a taste thing or what, but there's a scene late in the film where two characters who you've been waiting to kind of see fall into each other's arms finally do, and it's this very charming and kind of sweet moment. Even as the movie, like I said, I don't think the movie is very good, but they did something really cute in this moment that I really appreciated. But then it immediately went to a sex scene between the two of them, and I'm like, "Oh, you had it. You had it already. You were already there. I'm not squeamish about this. I don't have a problem with sex on screen. I know a lot of younger people do, but I've never had a problem with it myself. But
You're not
this,
young.
this is this was just you had it already. You nailed the moment. You didn't need to continue the moment. We didn't need to see them fuck. This is not a movie that should be going by on sexuality. It's a movie that should be romantic, and you had the romance. It happened. We can assume the rest. We can assume the rest. We didn't need to go to a sex scene. Am I being weird?
No, because I read a lot and listen to a lot of books, and I'm going to tell you what, if there's a sex scene inserted, it never works for me.
Mm.
They are never hot. Um, it's just the way they describe like penises. I don't even like that. His turgid manhood or his throbbing member, or whatever. I'm just like, oh my god.
I had hoped that Allison Janney in 10 Things I Hate About You had killed that joke, but it's a whole
Oh,
scene of her talking. She's writing a book. She's one of the teachers, and she's writing a book, and she's asking people for various different ways to say penis, and it's like a repeat. It's like a running gag with her, and it's like the perfect like takedown of that exact idea.
yeah, it's just so. Ugh.
There just wasn't a need for it. It just didn't need to be there. You nailed this big, sweet, romantic scene. The sex scene just took away from it. It made it seem cheap. It made it seem like you were just setting us up to see them naked. And it's a really tame sex scene, to be fair. It's a very tame sex scene, but still, it wasn't needed. There's a great moment in High Fidelity, one of my all-time favorite films, where John Cusack is about to go to bed with Lisa Bonet, and they cut away after they have their charming romantic moment, and they come back to him the next morning. He says, you didn't need to see any of that," because he's the narrator. He's narrating the movie to
Yeah.
us. Like, you guys didn't need to see that. I'll say it was fine, and we'll move on.
Hmm.
It's like, yeah, I get it. I wish this
Yeah.
movie had just left it at that moment, because this movie, like I said, it's not bad. I don't think I could have ever recommended it because it's too long and it's really just just far too melodramatic for me. But um, but that moment was really good. It was a really good moment, and they ruined it.
Of
The
course
one
they
good
did.
thing they had going for them.
Mm. I'm sorry you had to sit through that.
Well, I've seen far worse. I've seen all the 50 Shades of Grey movies. This is like, I'll take
Yeah.
Colleen Hoover. Thank you very much. E.L. James, that's some garbage, right? Colleen Hoover, like, give me all of that shit. Uh, yeah, so no, I don't recommend it. I don't think it's very good. Um, yeah, simple as that. I'm not writing it off as a chick flick. I will never do that. This is not,
Okay.
this is an emotionally mature film. Uh, yes, there's a predominantly female audience. There's no reason that anyone who is emotionally vulnerable can't relate to these characters if they're an emotional female male character relationship, a romance. If you're incapable of being in touch with a romance, then maybe you need to go to therapy or something.
If you are a man between the ages of 25 and 60, you should be going to therapy no matter what.
if if you're if you're over the age of 25 and you're still going, ew, girl stuff. Fuck.
Yeah.
Well, go to therapy. Go to therapy. You're not an adult. You're not. You're not an adult. It's like kindergartner. It's like kindergarten way to think.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's
Anyway,
next?
let's talk about Shelby Oaks.
Thank
Shelby
you,
Oaks
Shelby Oaks.
is a new horror film directed by Chris Stuckman, who is a YouTube film critic and quite a good one. To the point where, like, I'm a huge fan and I cannot be objective about this. I think he's great. I think his movie's great. The idea here is a bit of an ARG, alternative reality game that kind of him and his wife have been exploring for many years. And they finally put it into a screenplay form and made it as a movie. It tells the story of a character named Riley, who's the face of a YouTube channel that follows the paranormal. And Riley and her crew, the crew ends up dead. Riley is missing, and it goes by about 12 years, and Riley's sister is still looking for her, and something shocking happens that kind of brings the sister back into this plot and this place called Shelby Oaks that's been a dead city for many, many years. She's going to go there for, I guess, the first time, and since her sister disappeared, and see if she can find something new, because there's something that's in her head that's been driving her as well in this scenario. And you'll come to find out what that is eventually, like at the end of the movie, obviously. And I love the atmosphere. I like the way it's directed. I like the I like I like the low budget aspects of it. I think I think he uses technique very well. I think he's great at staging the scares and staging suspense and getting you to that point of being like, oh my God, what's that? I think
Yeah.
I think he's a smart director, and I think he made a smart movie, and I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. There were a couple little things that got me. Well, one big thing, and that is it was so dark when it was dark.
Yeah.
I movies in general are doing this, not just horror movies, but I feel like even the Springsteen movie, when it was dark, it was super dark. And I got to the point literally where I we've talked about this before. I fall asleep at the movies in the afternoon because it's my nap time because I work so early in the morning.
Mhm.
There were a couple times I did have to get up and walk out and like I got a refill on my drink at one point because I'm just like I gotta wake up because it's so dark it's putting me to sleep.
Mm.
And there are a few stretches in this movie where not a lot happens. It's not, it's stuff that kind of gets repeated a little bit, so I didn't really feel bad about that. Um, but I thought it was really well put together. I thought the story, um, while stretched out a little bit, I think that I thought it was really well done, well acted. I thought that um, everybody that was in it was really good. Um, I thought, especially, I mean, Sarah Dunn as Riley was just we liked her. You wanted to know also what happened to her, and the fact that we think that she's our protagonist for the most part until you get to Mia, played by Camille Sullivan. You think it's going to be all about her, and
Mhm.
you get to Mia, and she's also really good and like really natural. Not She looks like an actual person, which I appreciated. And I think that's getting somebody like Camille Sullivan instead of say like I don't know Charlize Theron, who is gorgeous anyway, but then her little tweaks and everything look a little make her look too much like a movie star. Even even if she's doing monster makeup, she's still
Mhm.
Charlize Theron. You see that underneath it. Camille Sullivan looks like an actual real person who might be looking for her sister. So I thought the casting was really well done. Um, and I feel like once she got to Shelby Oaks, it really was fast paced. I think, you could have set the whole thing in there. You could have done just a short prologue where she's looking for her and set the whole thing there and had, a little more atmosphere, but action at the same time. But I was like, I didn't quite know what to think going in because somebody said, "Oh, it was like a Timu Blair Witch," and I was like, "Oh." And then I got there, and I'm like, I don't remember it being all uh, found footage. And
It's
then
not. Yeah.
it's not. But so I get in there, and the beginning is, and I'm like, "Oh, maybe I'm not thinking of the right movie." But then it switches over, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then it like once it switched over, I thought it was just super well done and mostly engaging.
I enjoyed the authenticity of the YouTube stuff. I thought was great. I think
Mhm.
I don't know about the name Paranormal Paranoids. I don't, but I mean, I've seen a lot of YouTube channels with a lot of strange names, especially in
Yeah.
that part of YouTube. But the all the characters though seemed like natural fits, and
Mhm.
he also uses a lot of real YouTubers to comment on it, including some true crime people and some movie people
Yeah.
to comment upon the case of Riley Brennan, and it does seem like one that would catch people's attention in that way and become a story that gets told over and over again on YouTube, and that's the kind of the authenticity that he brings to this. I've never seen Camille Sullivan before. I don't think. I don't recall.
No,
I'm looking at her
I don't either.
filmography and I don't see anything I recognize. And I don't watch TV. Nothing against it. I just don't. I never have time for it. I watch way too many movies. I literally watched
Yeah.
2 Frankensteins today. I mean, I don't watch much TV. Um, but, I think she was fantastic.
Mhm.
I think there's something about her eyes that just really I find very engaging. She's got a lot of life in her eyes, and when she's silent, she's still telling the story. I like the way that he allowed, some of the YouTube stuff to play out across her face as opposed to, or the video stuff to play
Mhm.
across her face first, and was very patient with letting that build up to the shock of seeing her sister again. I thought that was
Yeah.
really smart and really strong, and he just makes really good decisions. He's got a good pace to this, and yeah, I'm impressed. I can't wait to see him do another one.
Yeah. Yeah, same. Good, I'm glad we agree on that because
Yeah.
I'm always worried when I like something if you're gonna like.
In fairness, like I said, I'm biased in Chris Stuckman's favor. I was rooting for him, and I was gonna be honest if I didn't like this, but I was going to try and be as nice as possible as well because I think the guy is fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Final new movie anyway, is Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, starring Jeremy Allen White as Bruce Springsteen and telling the story of a period in his life that I don't think a lot of people are that familiar with, aside from those who've read the book on which this is based. My first instinct was never to think of Bruce Springsteen as somebody who'd ever been super depressed.
Yeah.
And to see that, I mean, I sensed the darkness obviously in Nebraska when I listened to it, but I've never really gotten to the heart of that darkness, and this movie definitely goes there. He's coming off the road from having the gone on tour for the River, and he's having some of his earliest success in the charts, and uh, he's being pushed by the record company to make something big and make that next big step in his career. But he's taken by this thought after having seen Badlands on TV. He's just taken by this thought about that becomes Nebraska, essentially. That's the story of Richard Starkweather, who's a serial killer in the Midwest in the 50s. He becomes fascinated by this story and begins to investigate it, and then he's turning that into a song, which then, of course, becomes Nebraska. Meanwhile, the movie has also started another track where there's a romance going on. He's connected with a girl from his hometown who is grew up with him, but they didn't know each other. And she's played by Odessa Young, and she's wonderful, and she's there to highlight a very specific part of him, and it's this part that he cannot connect with other people. And as much as he would like to be connected to another person, as much as he'd like to have intimacy, there's this part of him that holds him back, and maybe to do with his father and that relationship, which also gets explored here. But it's a part of him that kind of terrifies himself, and when he kind of sees something of himself in Richard Starkweather, not the killer, but like the darkness and the way that can consume you, he becomes obsessed with it, and that drives much of the movie. And I think Jeremy Allen White is so incredible at capturing that feeling and those emotions and expressing those emotions in a way that doesn't feel played out. It doesn't feel obvious. He's very troubled, but he's also very, very thoughtful, and he's trying to get these things out of himself, as opposed to so many people, myself included, I'm sure, who take bad things in and hold them there and try and pretend they're not there. He doesn't want to do that. He's doing it. He doesn't want to. He wants to get them out of himself. And that becomes Nebraska. And even then, it's still not the full catharsis that he needs. Stephen Graham plays his father in a series of flashbacks. And I honestly, Jeff, I think Stephen Graham delivered one of the best performances of this year. I think that's honestly Jeremy Allen White, I think, is Academy Award worthy. I think Stephen Graham should win an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. That's how good I think he is at giving depth to a character that doesn't have a great deal of screen time, but comes to be this specter that is always in the movie, even if he's not there. He embodies that performance so brilliantly, and just as yet another mirror that Springsteen himself is looking into and seeing the darkness within himself. I love this movie. I think Scott Cooper did a hell of a job. I think he did an absolutely incredible job. This is this is another top 5 movie for me. I think it's just that good.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it was really, really good. I was a little hesitant because I'm listening to Bruce's autobiography right now, and I haven't gotten very far into it, so I haven't gotten to his depression, but he does, touch on his dad a little bit, and so I'm interested to hear what he says about this, which was based on a book not by him. I'll tell you what, one of my favorite moments of any movie so far this year is the Born in the USA number in the studio. It's such a good song. It's not about what you think it's about, if you're mega or whatever. And it's so effective in this movie because, we are like, he's spiraling at this point. And then you cut to this scene where everything is like, all burners are going, and, he is firing on every single cylinder, and then some other people's cylinders too, because he's so into it. And then you see what he does, what he can do. And then you're kind of like, do this, like poking him with a stick, do this instead. And I had no idea that they recorded Born in the USA and it sat on the shelf for 2 years so he could release Nebraska. I had no idea. Um, so I kept, I read that description. I was like, well, wait a minute. How, you know, that Born in the USA is such a like mid 80s album.
Hmm.
So as to find out it was so ahead of its time, it was like the early 80s when they recorded everything. It kind of blew me away. And Jeremy Allen White, I liked him on The Bear, but he's kind of one note on that show, and I think that he does kind of come out of his shell in this one, as he's going back into Bruce Springsteen's shell, I guess. Um, Odessa Young, the only thing I remember her from was The Damned, and she's just so completely different in this movie that I was kind of mesmerized by her. And the dad, yeah, he was so good. And when he at the end when he's like, sit on my lap, and he's like, I've never sat on your lap, Pop, and you're like, oh, okay, that's like that's real. That's like that
Hmm.
is that because I had not the same kind of relationship with my dad. We were not close growing up. We did not get close until much, much later after my mom died. And I don't remember any like sort of, moments with him that were tender or anything like that. The memory that I have of my dad, where it's just the two of us, was going to see Friday the 13th Part 5. And that's the only movie I've ever seen with my dad where my brother and sister or my mom or a bunch of my friends didn't go with. Um, so I never had the experience. My dad wasn't abusive or anything like that to me. Um, Apparently he was to a baseball team. Um, I'm kidding. But no, he we just didn't have a relationship until much later. And to see him kind of have that moment when he goes and finds his dad in the bar, that was really, really touching. Um,
Hmm.
and how he's protecting his mom, played by Gabby Hoffman, which I can't believe she's old enough to play Bruce Springsteen's mom. Um, yeah, she looks so much like her mom now. Her mom was Viva, who was one of Andy Warhol's superstars, and it's now I'm like, oh my god, I can really, really see it. But yeah, her just being kind of there, not really fleshed out the way he and his father were. I uh I was a little disappointed in that. I wanted to see his whole family dynamic because he does have an older and a younger sister. Um, and if you went to this movie, you would think that he's an only child. Um, but he has an older sister, and his younger sister is Pamela Springsteen, who is the star of Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3, who we've talked about before. Um, so I would have liked to have seen how that dynamic was, and how if they had any sort of input for him while he was going into his severe depression. But I mean, other than that, the performances are all really good. It's very, it's so on the nose with how depression affects people who you think have everything.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that's the thing is we all know Bruce Springsteen is this, party rocker guy. They show that so well in the movie. And then he's, to see him kind of having it all but wanting none of it, that is kind of hard to watch. And I think that's in large part due to the direction and Jeremy Allen White. So
Absolutely. And I just thinking about, I guess I never really took the time to think about where Nebraska came from. Um, obviously came from a place that was kind of dark, but it's just, he's a storyteller. I mean, he's always
yeah.
been a storyteller. So there's an inclination to just kind of view him as an artist who's telling a story as opposed to somebody who, uh, he's just so incredibly intelligent, and
Mhm.
he sees this dark character from Badlands, and doesn't necessarily sympathize with him, but rather sees in him this mirror of himself, of the potential darkness in his own life, and puts that into a song, placing himself in the person of the killer. And that's just a fascinating headspace for someone to go to, and a daring and bold and brave place to go to, because I mean, I'm not even sure if you could do a song like that today without the internet exploding and calling you, oh, why are you sympathizing with a killer? Are you going to kill somebody?
Yeah. Well, in Charles Starkweather, that was a huge, that was a huge news story in the late 50s and early 60s. And to have, this movie that we'll talk about that portrays Charles Starkweather, but not real, like it's obviously him and Carroll and Fugate, but they're not them. And to have Bruce Springsteen think, oh, you know what? What if I was Charles Starkweather? How would I deal with this? And you see that turn where he's telling the story of two other people, but then all of a sudden he's like, no, I'm the same. And he crosses out, he, and writes I and me. And I'm like, oh, that's like where he turns in the darkness. So,
Well, he does a lot of what Malick does, and that is take the killer and make them a person that you have to deal with, as opposed to the concept of terror or the concept of fear or the concept of evil. You're not allowed to have distance from it. When it's Bruce Springsteen who's taking that first person perspective, now you have to deal with it on a human level. And same as what Terrence Malick does in Badlands, which is he takes the character of Kip, the Charles Starkweather stand-in, and forces you to see him as a person by removing a lot of the the cinematic trappings that allows you to have a distance from him.
yeah, I mean, I guess we can segue into our classic Badlands, directed by Terrence Malick, from 1973, starring Martin Sheen and Sissy Spacek before she was Carrie. Um, and it basically it tells the story with all the same beats of what actually happened. Um, it omits a couple things, and I guess it has plausible deniability, but it is the story of Charles Starkweather and Carroll Ann Fugate. And they are they both he has just this charisma, this Martin Sheen charisma. And as somebody who had never watched this movie until yesterday, um, you you don't realize how much of Martin Sheen's filmography you're taking into this early role. And I think that it really helped me identify with some of the people that kind of fell for his line of bullshit, as Kip, and how he won over the guards and the National Guard and the police, and he won them over by just being himself. And he was a good old boy who he just had this murder in him. And I think Martin Sheen portrays that in a way that there's that good old boy, but then there's also a little bit of pathos that something has happened to him to kind of turn him into this killer. He's kind of a sad sack, but he puts up a brave front for Holly, played by Sissy Spacek, and she falls for that smokescreen. I think, not the actual vulnerable person. I think she wants a life that's bigger, and in running away with him, even after she watches him kill her father, and still takes off with him because she wants something more than what she was going to get if she stayed at home and lived under her father's roof. And I think that it shows that the dichotomy of how Carroll Ann Fugate, I watched a couple documentaries and things that were on the Criterion disc, and a couple YouTube videos, and how she was very defiant and said, oh, I never ever wanted any of this. He was so scary, and I just went along with him. I didn't do any of it. To the like real parts where there's no way she didn't at least do some of it. And yes, she was 14 when this happened in real life.
Mhm.
They did age Sissy Spacek to 15, and they made him, they made Kip 25, which in real life, Charles Starkweather was only 19. They were, much closer in age, but I think it plays better with him being older because he's been through more and can kind of talk her into the stuff that he does and how it's not so bad. Um, but what are your
There's a
thoughts as I've
there's this
rambled
poignant
on?
portion of the voiceover early on where she talks about her mother dying and the way her father uh, she was aware of his resentment of her, not through anything he's said, but through just the distance that he created between them, because she reminds him of his dead wife, and so he's kept his daughter. He's been a good father, but he's kept her at this sort of emotional distance that has created this absence that I think dehumanizes him to a point where it's not that she doesn't feel bad about him dying, but she doesn't have many feelings about him dying because she is so disconnected from him. She's also known the absence of parental love for her entire life
Yeah,
because of her father's distance and her mother's death, and so that her longing for something other than this lack, which he comes in and is just loving and supportive, and I mean it's a classic love bomb. I mean he's constantly going, he's constantly there and talking to her and listening to her and giving her things and telling her how pretty she is. Uh, that's going to appeal to somebody who's lacked that type of emotional nourishment their entire life. So at least in Malick's telling it, it makes perfect sense. I don't know about the real story, but in Badlands, that's definitely how it plays out. Um, and for Sissy Spacek to be able to play that, uh, just at she's relatively young here, it just goes to show you just how amazing she is, that she can communicate all that without having to do a monologue. There's no monologue to tell you all this. There's voiceover telling you some of this, but most of it is coming through just in her performance and just the few things she does tell us about her. And she is just so amazing in this. But everything about this movie is amazing. This is one of the greatest movies ever made. Um, Malick is arguably the greatest director of all time, in my opinion. I know there's Kubrick and Scorsese. I think he's on that level. I've loved everything
yeah,
he did. I loved To the Wonder, which I know most people don't, but I did. I think that movie is a beautiful ballet of images. Just my take on it. Like I said, I've loved everything that he's done. The New World is incredible. Yeah, they all are. So, but what he does in this movie specifically that is so different from I think any other director at the time is that he's not taking to task violence in media, but he is sort of reacting to movies like The French Connection or say other like what's the one Warren Beatty, oh, the super violent one. Anyway, he's reacting to movies like that
Bonnie and
that
Clyde.
are this growing Bonnie and Clyde, thank you, this growing spectacle of violence on the big screen at that time, and obviously has continued to today, where it allows us to see violence in media and treat it as entertainment. To the point where, like, I recall one of the vivid memories I have about September 11th is a lot of people saying this looks like a movie trailer. When
Hmm.
seeing the planes for the first time look like some kind of movie trailer. It's because we've created such a distance between ourselves and violent things that happen in front of us. And what Malick does is he takes away almost as much of the cinema as he can when portraying the violent aspects of this film. Because it's still a gorgeous movie. There's still great cinematography. There's still beautifully composed shots, but there's nothing of there's that his first of all his score is just not there to to push you in any way. It's there to surprise you, perhaps, but not to push you in the direction of how you feel. Whereas, like a suspense film, a score is there to build to. Sorry, my microphone's. There we go. Sorry. A score is there to push you. Like, you'll feel the suspense to get your pulse pounding, and then the big strings will come in to tell you to be scared or to be excited. He's not doing any of that. He's stripped all of that away because what he wants you to do is see this person, Kip, even as he's doing these monstrous things, you're forced to see him as a human being and not somebody who's here to entertain you. And that removal of emotional distance is not comfortable because you're looking at a man who's doing horrible things. He's not a good person. You don't want to be where he is. But at the same time, he's a human being who is acting upon his selfish desires and trying to shape the world to his liking, as many people do. He just happens to go to a place with that is beyond okay. It's beyond, the pale. But that's what he's trying to do, and that's what a lot of people are trying to do, is create a world that meets their desires, that meets what they want. He just tried to do that in the most violent way possible. But forcing us to look at him as a human being and see him as a person, as opposed to just this, like Hannibal Lecter, like a character you can have complete, as effective as that is, and I'm not taking anything away. It's incredibly effective and scary, but you have an emotional distance from that. There's no, like, maybe there's people who inspired Hannibal Lecter, but Hannibal Lecter doesn't really exist. Or Freddy and Jason, they don't exist. We've got an emotional distance from them because they're supernatural characters. You have no distance from Kip. You're in the car with him, and he's just this regular guy who happens to be killing people. And that's weird and uncomfortable and fascinating.
Yeah, I think that also, like, this was before the big true crime and true crime adaptation boom that we've had. Like, notably now you're getting all these horrible Ryan Murphy adaptations of things like
rash person he is. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This was, we had In Cold Blood, that was arguably one of the best true crime books out there, and also a very, very, very effective movie.
Mm-hmm.
But this was kind of like a new thing for people, that it wasn't Bonnie and Clyde because it was thoughtful and it doesn't make you, like, really root for them to get away with everything, but it does make you root for them as human beings and see their humanity enough to want to root for them, even though you're not supposed to. And I think that's in large part due to Sissy Spacek, because you're drawn into her character as she's drawn into Kip's web, and you sympathize with that because you too are seeing Kip as more dimensional as time goes on. And as the movie progresses, you kind of get, oh yeah, you know what? He's had some shit happen to him, and we may never get the explanation. He may never have that soliloquy where he talks about how trash his life was, but you can tell from Martin Sheen's performance and the writing that, yeah, it's like one of those but for the grace of God go I kind of moments, where you can see things, choices that you make in your everyday life could end up being Kip. So,
or end up being one of his victims.
Yeah.
Another fascinating thing about this that people find so uncomfortable about the idea of turning a killer into an actual human being, with thoughts and desires and wants, is that we have to deal with what created that. Not to say that he's not responsible. He's totally responsible for what he did what he did because he wanted to do it. He's a bad person. But there is a society that is fomenting people to end up where Charles Starkweather ends up, where I've got nothing. I've got nothing going for me. People are standing in my way. I'm just going to kill them.
Yeah.
Um, we've created a society uh, via this, and yes, it is via capitalism. And yes, I'm going to use this to criticize
Mhm.
capitalism like I always do. But this
Mm.
system, this system creates misery, and that misery has consequences. And people like Charles Starkweather are often the consequence of that system that we've created that
Mhm.
pushes particular people in particular directions toward, you know, somebody's got to be a garbage man. I get that. At the same time, we could probably pay garbage men to deal with the fact that they're, picking garbage,
Yeah.
so that
Or
so that we're not entirely dehumanizing them.
yeah. Especially in the 80s, we had Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, and we had, if your greed is good and all this stuff. And that pushes people like Andrew Cunanan, who he faked this lavish lifestyle that everybody thought he had for a while in order to seem like he was making it the way people in the 80s were told that they should. And, that led to a break in reality
Mhm.
that was worse than anything, just fake it till you make it kind of thing. That led to him, killing Gianni Versace and a bunch of other people just because they were a means to an end. And I think he thought that his end wasn't going to be killing himself on a boat in Miami. I think he thought his end was going to be being rich and famous and celebrated because, of what he did.
Mhm.
And that's the, all under capitalism. So yeah, I mean, we live in a flawed system in a flawed society, and I tend to there are like, and I think everybody makes their own choices in life as far as how they deal with things that happen to them. But there are some people, and I'm gonna use two serial killers as examples because I think that they never had a chance because of their brains and the way that society was towards them. And I'm gonna first is Jeffrey Dahmer because he was never taught how to deal with being gay and having these desires. And um, so like a lot of kids that were born in the 70s, late 60s, 70s, and they see all this, um, the media's portrayal of homosexuality as inherently disordered, as, pedophiles and all the stuff. And where do you go with that? Well, he just wanted somebody to care about him. And so that's what, and I think I don't think that any of these people don't have some mental issues. Uh, but I think some people like him dealt with their mental issues in super unhealthy ways.
Mhm.
Another one that did not have a chance in hell of getting anywhere. And I have a lot of grace for Eileen Wuornos because of the fact that she was beat down by everybody, her family, society, her classmates, her entire life. And the fact that she also, on top of that, had a mental illness. I guess I extend some grace to her as far as what she did and how she dealt with this, her illnesses and whatever. Um, but I also wouldn't, I would never root for her to be the killer. And I think that a lot of today's stuff does that. Whereas
Mhm.
with Badlands, you get to know the people and you're like, oh, they had a lot of problems and they were probably just really good guys. And then you realize, no, Charles Starkweather, Kip, was somebody who used all that as an excuse. He didn't say, oh, I made a bad choice. He always said, oh, I guess this is just the way it's going to be. Um, and with Holly, it's she just kind of goes along to get along because that's what you did in the 50s.
Mhm. And she's a
So,
child. She's a
and yeah,
child
and she's a child.
who's deeply lacking in affection and guidance. And her she makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
To me anyway. Um, we're just not we just people want to pretend that this system we have doesn't create as much sadness or far more sadness that it creates, a healthy happiness. um I mean, the growing wealth disparity is the problem, and I think if there was more stability in the world, there'd be a great deal less crime. I mean, I think that's just very, very obvious. Look at a movie like Roofman. I mean, do you think that guy
Yep.
would have been a criminal if he had the choice, if he had a better option, if he had, an opportunity to make money doing something? Maybe he did. Maybe he did have that opportunity, but he's so defeated and he's so beaten down by going to war and not being appreciated. He ends up, turning to a life of crime.
Hmm.
Um, and again, that's another movie where and Derek Cianfrance likes to do this, where again he's kind of like Malick in that way of trying to remove our cinematic distance from these characters and kind of force us into a situation to confront these people, as opposed to, well, like Ryan Murphy, who creates this entire wall against these characters, this fake bullshit of spectacle. That's the kind of insidiousness that is the exact opposite
Yeah.
of this.
I shared a meme not too long ago that I made, that if Ryan Murphy told the story of the Black Panthers, it would all be Finn Wittrock and Chris Messina and like all his go-to guys to play the Black Panthers. And somebody told me I've never seen something that was more accurate in my entire life. It's just
They're the
so
heroic reporters who brought the Black Panther to the Black Panthers
oh
to
my
the world.
God. No, he would. They would literally be playing the Black Panthers. Um, but yeah, I think that Badlands is so effective in that it humanizes these killers, but also doesn't shy away from just the banality of their brutality.
Mm-hmm.
Because Charles Star or Kip he'll just shoot people just for walking in the opposite direction. He just shoots people just to. I think he finally developed a taste for it. I think the first part was desperation and then necessity, and then I kind of dig this. So, and I
Yeah,
think that Martin Sheen just really telegraphs that really well.
the literal title of the review I posted today of Badlands is the banality of evil, the Hannah Arendt quote from her book about Adolf Eichmann, and how Eichmann on trial in Jerusalem was basically his plea when it came. He was one of the architects of the Holocaust, and his plea was that he was just doing his job, and he is so certain of that, like he was just doing accounting. Like that's
Yeah,
literally how he approached it. Was that he was just an accountant who created a system that efficiently killed people. Um, and the banality of evil is how Hannah Arendt put it, and that's similarly that's kind of how Kip is in this movie, and how Starkweather was portrayed in many ways as a guy who just killing people was just kind of the thing that he did. It was like his job.
yeah,
Like it's my job. I'm going to work now and I'm going to kill people to get things that I want to or need to have. Um, and that's another thing that terrifies people is that banality, is the fact that he doesn't, that the idea that anyone could see your life and not see it as special is very troubling for people. And I
well,
don't
and
understand that, because I feel it's not.
yeah,
I'm not outside of that. I feel my life is special too, and no one should take it. But
yeah,
I'm saying that everybody thinks they're special, and the idea that there could be someone who doesn't think that is very disturbing. But also, just this idea that maybe there isn't a destiny. I don't think Charles Starkweather saw himself as being destined for greatness, destined to be this killer. Killing was just something that he did. It was a means to an end, and the idea that you could be the means to someone else's thing. Like, I was in Charles Starkweather's way, so he killed me. Like that this could just be all about chance and not about something larger, like a purpose. That's terrifying. That's a terrifying idea. That's like the idea that someone could just come to your door and shoot you for no reason. I don't think people are comfortable with that, and that's the amazing thing about Badlands is like, well, you better get comfortable with it because it's possible. You need to think about this. You need to be a more well-rounded person and understand that if we created a more equitable world, this might not. There'd be a lot less chance of this happening.
Yeah, I think that stuff like this, like serial killers, are on the waning edge because of the internet and awareness of them.
Mhm.
But that being said, I think we're going to get a lot more spree killers because of, people getting desperate. And, we are in a time when just 2 days from now, people are going to lose their SNAP benefits and people are going to be desperate. They already are, and
Mhm.
it's we don't solve it by handing out ramen for Halloween. We don't solve it by, like thoughts and prayers. Those never work. Um, we solve it by actually like taking a stand against the people that are doing this and making the point that all we're doing is creating more instability, and then like mental instability as well, not just income instability. Because
Emotional instability.
yeah, because income instability creates emotional instability in a lot of people. I've been through periods of my life where it's like I don't know where my next paycheck is coming from, and I've got a car payment and rent and this and this. um and I got through it, but I never went out and killed anybody. But you know how you get to the point where you're like, oh God, I could just kill this person, or you think it, but you don't actually act on it. Kip is the person who just acts on it because it's like, oh, that solves so many problems. So,
Yeah. Amazing
but yeah,
movie, one of the greatest ever made. And if you've never seen Badlands, we didn't spoil it for you. There's no way to spoil this
no,
movie.
no, it's it's 52 years old. It's not, yeah. Um, Also, I we had planned something else, but then I saw the Bruce Springsteen movie, and I'm like, you know what? I own this movie, and I've never watched it, so we do that. So yeah, thanks for letting me talk about it.
Next week, hopefully, I mean, I hope I get to see Frankenstein. I don't know how many times it's showing or if it's going to sell out or whatever, but I'm going to try and get to it this weekend because I'm very excited to see Guillermo del Toro's take on the Frankenstein character. So that's out there. The movie that is, I guess, the widest release and the most talked about release is Begonia. Yorgos Lanthimos' new movie with Emma Stone will be out this weekend, and so that's exciting. And see, Back to the Future is actually doing a full weekend back in the theaters this weekend, so that's interesting. I don't know if I'll
Yeah.
get to it, but I've seen Back to the Future so many times.
Well, you know that Frankenstein is actually showing Friday, Saturday, or Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So
Hmm.
I'm hoping that based on my um based on my schedule, I'll be able to see it at some point. So
Very exciting. Very exciting to see that is coming here because we don't get cool stuff around here. Although I
yeah,
did see that there's a movie playing over in Moline now that is not here. It's Richard Linklater's new movie is in town, and I had no
oh,
idea because they don't advertise ever. Motherfuckers. How does a new Richard Linklater movie happen and nobody knows?
well, I don't know. I
Totally
didn't even know
bizarre.
he made a new one. I guess that's because nobody advertises any other movies.
Exactly. Advertise, fuckers. Will go to the fucking theater. Dumbasses.
Like I didn't have any idea that Frankenstein was coming out until like 2 weeks ago.
Mhm.
I thought, oh, it's coming out, but is it Christmas? Because that's usually when this kind of movie comes out now.
Right?
So anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, let's
That's
hopefully
what's
we'll both get to see that, and I'm definitely gonna see Begonia. So
very excited about that one. We'll have to think of
yeah,
a classic.
we will. We'll think of something.
All right.
So
Thanks, Jeff.
have a good one.
Good night.